Hi, and welcome to Case Mobile Notaries channel. My name is Celine. Hi, everybody. Listen, I got a good one for you guys today. We're going to talk about some laws today. I know we don't always talk about the law, but that's what we're going to do. So, have you ever had to notarize a document for a Native American client? And were you trying to figure out, can I accept their tribal ID? Listen, that's what we're going to talk about today. So get ready, okay? Get your pen and paper if you don't know about this, because notaries, they need to be aware of specific verification procedures for the indigenous community. Sometimes they have different laws. So we're going to jump right in just a few minutes. I just want to let you know and want to thank you for watching our channel. Let you know my name again is Celine, and this channel here is where we help people level up their learning so you can level up your life. So let's get started. All right, so I want to kind of talk about first, what is Indian law? I had to get some notes so that way I can break this down, because there's a lot of intersections when it comes to Indian law. And I really got this information and idea from, I seen a headline, they're good with headlines, right? So I seen a headline that said, will the U.S. lose 50% of Oklahoma? And I was like, what? What they talk about? Lose half of Oklahoma? I said, okay, I gotta read this article, right? So I'm reading the article, and it's about, Indian laws, and there's a case, the McGirt versus Oklahoma case regarding Indian laws and, having their land and things like that. So I'll link that article in the description below so you can read it for yourself. I'm just going to kind of talk about it briefly because we're going to talk about the part that pertains to notaries, because, of course, my channel is a notary channel, but I also talk about things in the world news as well, and also relate it back to how it either A, could benefit a notary, B, if it's something notaries need to know, or C, if it's just good for you to know, because we want you to level up your learning, right? Okay, so what is Indian law? So Indian law refers to the body of laws governing the legal status, rights, and sovereignty of Native American tribes, okay? So tribes are considered domestic dependent nations. So tribes are domestic dependent nations, okay? With their own governments, laws, and courts. They got their own courts too. Now see, that I did not know before I started researching that I knew they had their own laws. I did know that. Governments, I didn't know about government, but if they got their own laws, they got to have some type of government, right? So I guess in the back of my mind, I did know that. But of course, now that I'm thinking about it and saying it out loud, then I guess they would have their own courts, right? So, okay, here we go. So U.S. law recognizes tribal sovereignty, but tribes also operate under certain federal regulations. So I guess the U.S. is like, hey, okay, you can have your government, you can have your laws, but let me tell you, there's going to be certain federal regulations you still going to have to do. The U.S., the United States of America, they always want their hand in the, what they say, cookie jar, or they want their hand in something. I don't know. Why don't they be nice and just smell the roses? Chill, relax. No, they want to be in it. They in this thing. All right. So, okay. So now that we got that out the way, we know kind of what the Indian law is, what that's about, and all that. So they got their own laws, their own government, their own courts. Okay, this is really interesting. I mean, I want to find out more eventually. So let's talk about the intersection, though, of the federal, the state, and then the tribal laws, okay? Because they have to deal with all three, okay? Because they have their own community, their own situation. But they still got to be out here in the world, because some things only work, here out in the world, right? So you still got to kind of get out here a little bit without being out here, right? Okay, so let's talk about that. So let's talk about the federal law first. So the federal law in this governs matters such as tribal land, federal recognition, and treaty laws. Okay, so that's what they have to deal with as far as the feds are concerned. Okay, so now the states. The state law, they may or may not apply on reservations depending on jurisdiction. States have limited authority over tribal lands. So as a state, you don't got that much you can say to anyone that has these tribal lands or Native Americans or anything like that. If they in your state, they sounds like can do whatever they want to do. I don't know. But, okay, so states limited, limited. But the federal said, no. Yeah, the state, they can't do nothing. But when we get up to the federal level, we going to be able to do something. All right, so now the tribal law. What's that about? So remember, we had the federal law, state law. Now we're going to talk about tribal law. Tribes have their own laws and courts, which may impact legal transactions, including notarizations, okay? Because as states, right, individual states, and you're going to have to look this up for your individual state as far as Indian laws and what you need to know and how to notarize, right? So that's pretty much what we're going to talk about next is how does this affect notaries? What do you need to know, okay? So not all notaries have the authority to perform notarial acts on tribal lands. So you must know that. So if you get something that's on a tribal land, you might not have the authority to do this. You're going to have to check with the tribal government, okay? Because they got their own laws, they got their own governments, they got their own courts, right? So they may have their own notaries, right? So if you're a tribal notary, or if there is such thing, put it in the comments. Let me know. I don't know. But how are they getting things notarized, right? Inside their own particular government, are they able to do particular notaries for, I guess, whatever they have going on inside of the tribal lands or tribal community? Probably. Do they even need a notary for any of those type of things? Maybe they don't use notaries, I don't know. But if you got to come out in the world, because some things you still got to be out in the world, I call it in this, US of A. Like the Fed said, like, hold on, there's some stuff you got to do. Okay, so what are valid forms of ID for them, right? So some tribes, they issue their own government-issued ID, which may or may not be accepted under state law, okay? States, remember, they have limited availability on what they can do with your Indian laws, right? So they do issue their own ID. But whatever you're notarizing, can their tribal ID be used? Have you looked into your laws to see if they even say anything about tribal IDs? Or do they say specifically what IDs are required? Now, I do know some people that have the tribal IDs. They do have both. They have a state ID, and they have their tribal ID. So that way, they can use their state ID, right? Or they might even have a passport. Your passport's federal, so they might even have that. So they might have what you need, but you are going to have some that only have that. So you need to think and you need to know, what are you going to do if this comes up, right? You always want to be prepared, and that's why we're bringing this to you, so that way, whatever state you're in, you can research this, right? And see what you need to know. All right, so again, you might not be able to accept their tribal ID, okay, for whatever they need to be notarized. So this is something that you need to find out. All right, so some tribes have their own legal procedures for contracts, land transactions, and wills, which could affect notarization requirements. So sometimes they have their own just totally set up. So maybe you might not ever come in contact with this type of scenario, or maybe you will come in contact with it. But what I wanted you to do today is say, okay, let me put this in my mind that if something like this happens, what will I do? Okay? So that's the purpose of this video today, is to get you to thinking. And Have you ever encountered a notarization involving Native American clients? If so, what challenges did you have? Can you drop that in the comments for me? Share your experience. Let us know. We really would appreciate it. But that's all I have for you today. I just want to get those wheels turning, right? And if you have any questions or anything, just ask me in the comments. We'll talk in the comments about this one. All right. Well, I want to thank you for joining. Share the video, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.